You're listening to Prosper in the Kingdom, the podcast where faith meets practical strategies to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Join hosts John Cleaver and Wendy Lee as they share insights to equip you in your journey toward abundance, spiritually, financially, and beyond. Just a reminder, every situation is unique. The content of this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as specific financial or medical advice.
Welcome back, everybody. We are here with another Prosper in the Kingdom. I'm your host, John C., and the ever awesome Wendy Lee is my partner in spreading the good news about getting wealthy with God. So, hey, Wendy.
Hey,
I was going to say
good to be here. But
I was going to say partner in crime, but I don't think that was probably a good intro
doesn't
for
fit the vibe.
Christian. No. So, but anyway, you guys give me a little grace. You know what I meant. So. Today, we've got an exciting topic that I'm fired up about. Wendy and I kind of had a little pregame chat, and she's fired up about it as well. But it's something that's overlooked by so many people. And it's one of those things, I don't know that overlooked is the right word or phrase. It's more of,
ignored.
I know it's important. What's that?
It's ignored.
There you go. That's that, just call it what it is, right? I know it's important. We'll get around to it, but most people never do. And, Wendy and I do a lot of financial coaching for business owners, for families, individuals, things like that, and financial coaching. And it's one of the things that, maybe 10% of the people have their ducks in a row. What am I talking about today? Well, it's the ultimate wealth move that most people overlook. It's the estate planning. And so we're going to talk about that today and why it's so important. On kind of, not only helping you build your assets, but making it a legacy, protecting it from all kinds of things. So we're going to quickly walk through that and then obviously give you, some action items on what you can do to get your financial house in order when it comes to estate planning. So, I want you to clearly understand this too. A lot of people, when they think estate planning, they think of bougie, rich people, right? Oh, I don't need an estate plan because I don't have much. And that is so incorrect, right? If you own a house, if you have a bank account, a car, or even that golden retriever you call your firstborn, right? Your fur baby, you already have an estate. So it's literally that simple. And it's critical that you need to, get some stuff in order to make sure you decide what happens when you step out. Or guess what? The courts are going to decide, right? Some stranger, some rando is going to decide who gets what and everything else. So here's the real truth. What people don't really know or understand. Number one, we're going to talk about these documents today. And there's 4 documents that every family needs. Okay, if you're over the age of 18, maybe 21, you need these documents. It's power of attorney that's going to protect you while you're alive, and there's a couple of them we'll talk about. A living will protects your medical decisions, right? We'll do a deep dive on that. And then the last will and testament that guarantees your family a date with probate. And if you don't know what probate is, that's basically the state that you live in is going to come in and say, hey, you know what? We're really proud of you and all the hard work that you did during your living years. So we're here for our cut, right? It's not like you weren't taxed enough, but they're going to come after that too. So yeah, right. Fun times, Wendy. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I was thinking about New Jersey. They give you a tax when you move out of the state. Your tax, it's called an exit tax. I'm like, this is like the ultimate exit tax.
Seriously, and all the states do this. I didn't know New Jersey did that. I knew California put that into play. It's like that to me, don't even get me started. That's a whole other conversation we need to have. But the final document that kind of is your, think of Captain America and the big America shield, right? The big shield is the family trust. And we're going to go into that as well and go into it. So let's jump in. So why as a believer should this be important to you? And it goes back to one simple verse, right? Proverbs 13:22 says a good man or woman gives an inheritance to his children's children. Okay. His children's children. That didn't mean just first generation, right? That means your children, your grandchildren, and beyond. And you can do that. You can actually impact your family literally from the grave. And we're going to do a little intro into that as well. So what does that really mean?
Chime in on that real quick, John.
Yeah.
Because, people will be like, I've heard people say, oh, that's not necessarily referencing money. It actually is if you read it within context. But also if you look,
what is it? Is it referencing your herd of goats? I mean, what is it referencing?
people
Go
think it
ahead, I'm
means
sorry.
like your faith, like impacting
No,
the faith through the
no.
years. It's talking about money. And then other people say, oh, but it's the Old Testament. Yes, but Jesus didn't come to just say none of that mattered. He came to fulfill, right? And so the principles, if you look back and you truly read the Old Testament, I mean, they really cared about that generational impact. And I think that's part of what has crippled the recent generations is not thinking about the generational impact of our decisions. And so
Yeah.
I would say like the word of God is so full of just wisdom, and those people that are putting into practice that generational wealth, their families that wind up controlling things. And wouldn't we want, the control in the hands of more good people? Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, and it's talking about multi-generational wealth, folks. And, it's in the Old Testament, I'm a Christian, right? I'm a New Testament believer. But even though we're under the new covenant, the Old Testament is the foundation to our house, the foundation to our faith, right? And the new covenant, the new rules, if you will, doesn't mean that everything from the Old Testament falls away. And quite frankly, why wouldn't you want to help your children and your grandchildren?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to put that out there. So anyway, but it's talking about money, but it's not just about money. I mean, it is order, honor, wisdom, like those other things, but it does include wealth, financial, right? And we've seen too many families where they just haven't had a plan, right? And especially when somebody passes away, you can definitely tell they didn't have a plan, because all of a sudden you see the GoFundMe pop up. And it's like, okay, that probably is a good indicator that nothing else was set up, and the state's going to get a large portion of it. I know in the state of Tennessee here, if you have over the last time I checked, so it may be different today, but it's 25,000 is the limit, right? So if you have assets over 25,000, that includes equity in your home, your 401k, anything like that, that old beater car you got, if it's worth, that all that adds up to 25,000, guess what? You're going through probate, and they're going to take probably about 20 to 30%. And again, you can avoid all that with just getting your house in order. So, that's why it really matters to believers. It's biblical, and the enemy doesn't have to destroy your wealth if he can destroy your family with confusion. I'm just going to throw that out there too. So let's jump
Can you
over
say
to
that one more time, John? Because your mic kind of cut out. The enemy doesn't have to destroy your wealth. What?
The enemy doesn't have to destroy your wealth if he can destroy your family with confusion. So, and I'll adjust my mic here. So while I'm doing that, why don't you jump into the power of attorney piece we talked about?
Yeah. So power of attorney. So when we talk about your legacy planning documents, when we do financial plans with our clients, we talk about several different documents. And I'm going to touch on two of those real quick. The financial power of attorney and the medical power of attorney. These are two different power of attorneys. The financial is going to be that person that you can trust, that, can pay bills, move money, run your business if you're incapacitated. So financial power of attorney and the medical don't just mean when you're, the financial doesn't just mean when you're gone. It's for that too, but it's also if you're alive and not in a position to be able to make those financial decisions. Some of the clients we talk to have elderly parents who are no longer able to make those financial decisions, or don't know how to, right? Maybe in decent mental capacity, but just like unaware of how things work and need that help. So the financial power of attorney puts the control in someone else's hands to make financial decisions. And then that medical piece. Oh, go ahead. You want to talk about
if I can jump in on that financial piece, and that's something like with my own mother, right? She's at that point where she's been retired for a few years now. And, she's starting to get to the point where all the, the digital stuff, the e-transfers and electronic checking and stuff like that, a lot of it's confusing. And she's got people, unfortunately, this is the world we live in, where they're trying to scam her out of money. And, we got to a point where I said, Mom, look, just let me handle that. And, we've got full transparency. I mean, we meet and I show her what's going on and things like that. But I'm the one who actually, makes those decisions for her and who gets paid and where they get paid and things like that, and make sure that she's not getting taken to the cleaner, so to speak. And that's where the full transparency come in. But that's what, the financial power of attorney is for, is,
Mhm.
not necessarily take complete control over, but to help guide them and watch their back, because, things start slipping when you get a little older. And unfortunately, she came from a generation where you left your front doors unlocked, and, you could trust everybody at their word and stuff like that. And, unfortunately, that's just not the world we live in anymore. So,
Well, and so many um, of the older generation getting, like you said, scammed. I mean, I had a great
mm,
uncle in his 90s scammed out of six figures, like basically his money he lives on. And it's just,
yeah.
yeah, it's disappointing. But
There's a special place in hell for that. So, side note, there's a guy I watch, and I'm going to give him a shout out. His name's Pierogi. He's on a YouTuber, and he's a IT genius. And that's what he does, is he helps these people, these elderly people that get scammed, and goes back and gives a little payback. So it's just a side note, but love the guy. So
get some
he's
back.
fighting the good
All
fight.
right.
He's
So,
fighting the good
but
fight.
justice is the Lord's. All right. So,
Right.
medical power of attorney. That's where someone can help make those healthcare decisions. There's a couple reasons for this, y'all. Like medical power of attorney in, late stages of life, if there's mental incapacitation or if there's a medical injury and you're in a coma, someone to make decisions. So you're saying, like, if you're unable to, you're putting the power in someone else's hands to make those medical decisions. And also for those of you with like young adult children, this is something I never thought about until someone brought this up. Like, I think it was one of our
So
clients.
glad you brought this up. It was
Yeah,
something
like
new with my
I
kid.
have a 22-year-old son, a 20-year-old son, a 23-year-old son, and technically I have no right over what happens to them medically, and none of them are married. So who's the decision maker? And so
Yeah.
unfortunately, and which is total sidebar conversation, but I'm going to throw a little bit in here. A lot of people have been seeing the reality on organ donorship and all that. You, as a parent of a young adult who's not married, with that significant other to make decisions, I would say get a medical power of attorney with your kids, so that if they're incapacitated, car accident, whatever, that you have the ability to make decisions over their life, and it's not left in the hands of the hospitals. So, and so the one thing
Yes. I
is that,
cannot recommend that enough.
go ahead.
I think we got a little bit of a lag, but yeah, I cannot recommend that enough, for the simple fact that, little Johnny, little Susie goes off to college across the country, and the doctor's going to decide. I mean, there may be a 4-hour time difference, right? And you're not even aware things are going on, decisions are being made. And it's so simple, but so critical that you get that medical power of attorney for your kids when they go off to college. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And so these power of attorney is different than your last will and testament, or it's not going to do it when you're gone, it's gone, right? But this is while you're still alive. It's not going to transfer assets or help you avoid probate or protect any inheritance. It's not a wealth plan, but it's going to handle the emergencies if you get taken out of the decision-making process temporarily. So.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a technical problem there, so you can edit this part out, I guess. But jumping over, kind of piggybacking on that, is the living will, right? And that's a key document. A lot of people are like, what is a living will? I know I'm part of the Vanderbilt system in Nashville, and they do a fantastic job of promoting the family will. And that's, again, something, what does the person want done medically when you can't speak? If you're in a coma or something like that, or God forbid, serious car accident and you're on life support, with, do you want to stay on life support indefinitely, or do you want to give it a certain period of time, or do you want to, what do you want to do, or feeding tubes, no feeding tubes, all that stuff. This document, number one, it protects your family from guilt and confusion. You're not putting that on them. You're also not creating a situation where maybe you've got two children, one wants you to stay, one wants to let you go, And so it creates some tension that can decimate families, right? So all of this matters. But again, it doesn't, the living will does not transfer money, right? It doesn't choose any guardians for, any minor children, anything like that, or pets. I want to add that in there. It doesn't avoid probate, and it doesn't protect any of your assets. What that living will is really focusing on the medical piece of what you want, what are your wishes, and you're not there to verbalize them. So this is the document that, hey, this is what I want to have happen in this scenario. So
yeah, absolutely. And then that last will and testament is that, John will talk about estate plan and beyond that, but the last will and testament is the one thing that we find that so many people, it's something simple that you need, but most people don't have it. And that, people think they're protected, but they're not. So that will is going to say who gets what if you pass on. So listen,
yes.
you know how many fights could be avoided if people would just do this? I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh.
You're gonna save your family so much by putting things down on paper. But you say who gets what. If you have young children, who's gonna be if you and your spouse, mom and dad are taken out in a car accident or a flight, God forbid, whatever, and you don't have someone in place for your minor children, then the state's gonna decide that. And a will is going to go ahead.
If I can add in on that, and really how it happens. I mean, look at, let me play out the scenario for you. So the United States, we're a transient society, right? Where you move to a different state for a job. So, for example, I've got my brother lives in Dallas, Texas. My sister lives out in Janesville, California. My dad and stepmom live out in Baltimore, Maryland. So, and I live in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So we're literally all over the place, coast to coast, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what you would refer to as immediate family. So if I had minor children here in Tennessee, what would happen is obviously my family would be notified, but the state of Tennessee actually takes possession through the Department of Child Services of your children. Now, this may be different state to state, so I'm not referencing every state, but they're gonna, okay, well, who wants the children? Who's going to raise their hand or whatever? And this last will and testament kind of lays out the line, and then they've got to do a background check on that person, right? So, if they decide, so the last will and testament kind of cuts all that quickly to the chase. Okay, I want my brother or my sister to have the children. We've already had that conversation, and please have that conversation in advance. But again, it's something that it speeds up the process and makes what's already an extremely painful process a little less painful, a little more bearable, right? Especially for any minor children. So,
yeah, absolutely. And I used to work for a very short time. I did some temp work for an attorney that did power of attorney, living will, last will, and testament. He specialized in those three things. And you guys, we have ways to help you get this done at a very low cost. He charged $5,000 for those documents.
Yeah, that's not
$5,000 to come in. Yeah. And I wrote the paperwork when I worked there. It was literally a document that I just plugged in people's names and changed a few words, right? But they sit down and it's highly expensive, typically. And so, but there are ways to do it at a much more affordable rate that we can help you with as well. But the thing with the last will and testament, if you don't have the trust, like John's going to talk about, it guarantees that you're going to go through probate court. So that's where the judges, attorneys, and government agencies step in and take control of your estate. And depending on the size of the estate and things like that, right? But anyone can pull the files, see what you owned, what it's worth, and even what your heirs fought over. So if you have only a will, you actually don't avoid the system. You just went into business with the courts. So John, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just you that's exactly what you've done. I mean, the court's going to follow your will, right? It's going to, Susie's gets this, Bobby gets that, whoever gets what. They're not going to change the will portion of it, but it again, they're going to be the executor and facilitator, not necessarily the executor, facilitator of that will. And you're going to go through probate, and it's a lengthy, and it can be lengthy. Some states are shorter than others, but It's going to be a lengthy process, and they're going to take a cut. And this is where you start to see, situations where family farms get sold off, or a portion gets sold off to cover the taxes. Maybe there's a family business and that's going to get sold off to cover the taxes and stuff involved. And this is kind of what they're talking about, right? And again, we're not attorneys. We're not giving you legal advice. What we're doing is pointing out the information, educating you on things you should be looking at to prepare, because, like it or not, nobody likes to talk about it, right? And I think that's why a lot of people never get around to doing it, because they think they got forever. But here's the deal. We all have a date, right? And you don't know when that date is. It could be 30, 40 years from now. It could be 3 or 4 days from now. And so that's why you want to get that in order. Just kind of, give you the peace of mind to have that done. So those 4 documents, just to recap: number 1, medical power of attorney. Number 2 is a financial power of attorney. Number 3 is a living will. Number 4 is a last will and testament, or what I like to call the set of instructions, right? Now, this is where the big wealth move comes in. And I want to go right into what's called the family trust. And there are several different kinds of family trust, but we're going to just talk about a general family trust for now, right? And there's revocable, irrevocable, and things like that. And that's something an attorney can walk you through to figure out which is the best one for you. But a properly written revocable living trust, okay, lets you, and keep revocable, remember that, lets you, number 1, control your assets while you're alive. Okay. It's one of those things that, well, and you've heard it. If you listen to any kind of wealth, planner or anything like that, hopefully if you're working with one, they're a good one. But you want to own nothing and control everything, right? And I'm not talking about what the government is trying to sell of own nothing and be happy. That's a totally different conversation. So you want to own nothing and control everything. And a trust allows you to do that. So you control the assets while you're alive. Okay, nobody's going to take anything from you. Nobody's going to do X, Y, or Z. But you transfer them instantly and privately when you pass away. Okay. Or you keep the family trust going and you add members to that family trust, children, grandchildren, stuff like that, right? You skip probate completely. What does that mean? You also skip a lot of the costs associated with that, right? And here's the thing that I like. I'm a private person. You keep your financial life out of the public records, because you don't have a trust. Everything you have, like Wendy was talking about earlier, is going to go through and people can look at it. Scammers can look at it, right, and see all of that. So this keeps your financial life out of the public record, and not just when you pass, but when you're alive. Okay, so nobody's going to say, oh, and that's one of the things that is nice too from a lawsuit perspective, right? And the trust will protect your assets from predators and lawsuits. So, we're a litigious society, right? It's just a fact of it, right? So you get a lot of these attorneys that they work on contingency. Well, if we win, we're going to take 50% or 60% or 40, whatever, a percentage of whatever you win, right? The first thing they're going to do is, okay, who are we suing? And then let's go see what assets they have. Okay. And if they pull your name up and there's no assets listed, probably not going to sue, right? Or they're more deterred, more of a deterrence in that lawsuit, right? Because they don't see any assets. Whereas, your situation without a trust, they go, oh man, they got this house, they got a cabin, they got all these cars. All of a sudden it's like cha-ching, right? That's what they're looking at. So it protects you from a lot of that too, by number 1, keeping your stuff private. And number 2, technically you don't own it anymore. The trust does. You just control it, right? So that's where trusts, in my opinion, are the sexy beast in the financial world, right? I'm just going to say it. And you also decide how your heirs receive that money, not just passing off a lump of cash to your kids, because they're going to treat it like a lottery and go out and blow it. You can control it. There's a fantastic book out there called What Would the Rockefellers Do? And that's the mindset that we teach with our clients, is really, don't just set up a payday for your kids. Set up a foundation, if you will, not a technical foundation, but set up a family foundation where they have access to the money, but they can't necessarily pull it out. And there's a whole lot of things you can do with that. And it will literally can last generations, not just your kids, your grandkids, but beyond, right? If you set it up properly. And what your kids inherit, again, you're looking at wisely, not wildly, not going out and buying the new cars and stuff like that. They can get the income maybe at 25, or maybe you set it up where they can borrow it, but you can control the percentage of payouts, things like that. And really, it allows you to control that financial impact from the grave, like I was talking about earlier. And wealthy families don't stay wealthy because they make more money, right? We talk about this all the time, folks. It's not that they make more money. They stay wealthy because the money never leaves the system. Okay. And you can set up the system with a trust. That's why it's one of the most powerful documents out there. So I like to give the analogy, and I'm gonna take a quick pause because I know I've been talking a lot. Did you want to add anything to this so far? Because I get fired
No,
up about
keep going.
trust.
Keep going.
All right. Woo-hoo. So you look at this. I love Pirates of the Caribbean. Okay. I don't know if that's fantasy or sci-fi or whatever. But anyway, the treasure box. Everybody knows what a treasure box is. So a trust is like a treasure box. And then you put all your treasures in there, right? Your cars, your homes, any physical assets like precious metals, stuff like that. You put it all in there, right? And then the last will and testament is a set of instructions you set on top of the assets, right? Here's what I want going. Here's how we're going to do all this. And then you close the box and lock it. Okay. And that's how you protect it all, right? The assets move from generation to trust to generation, never hitting the actual probate court. And when structured appropriately, you don't legally own the documents or the assets. The trust does, but you control it. Right?
Yeah.
You control it. So again, I can't speak highly enough of that. And that's something, how do you start? Well, you start with the baby steps. Get those 4 documents in mind. And as Wendy mentioned, you can go out and hire an attorney to do all this. Your attorney in your neighborhood, you've got a great relationship with them. Give them a call. You just say, hey, here's what I want to do. I want to set up, I want to set up these 4 documents. I want to set up my family trust. What's that going to run me? Okay. Now we're all about, setting people up for success and not doing it cheaply. I mean, if you want, you can go out and try to do it and download documents online. Good luck with that. Are they stay compliant? Are they actual legal documents? Or is it just going to be blown away when it actually goes, it's challenged by somebody? We've partnered with a legal firm, right? And it's like a legal network. So they work with attorneys in all 50 states. Very, very cost effective. I mean, you can start, it's a membership type of a deal, right? You can get plugged in as little, I think, $40 a month or $45 a month for a family. You're going to get the 4 documents. You can get the trust done at a major discount. And this is something that, like it, hey, great. Take a look at it. If it's for you, perfect. If not, we'll put the link down below in the comment section or in the actual, I keep forgetting that phrase, the captions, right?
Show notes.
It'll be in there. Show notes. There you go. Take a look at it. If you like it, fantastic. If not, at least you looked. But work with an attorney on it. Don't try to do it on yourself on Google, trying to, save a buck. DIY is not something you want to do with your family's financial future. Just going to throw that out there, right? But, a lot of this stuff is designed to protect you and your family. And so few people know about the power of the trust, and they're very powerful documents, right? So bring us home, Wendy.
Yeah. I want to retouch on that. What would the Rockefellers do? I read that book. I think it's the first book I ever read when I joined you in business. And it was mind blowing. I mean, because even if you're not wealthy, each generation can get wealthier when you practice some of these things they teach. And, like John mentioned, it's not like, oh, I died. Here, take your trust fund, baby. Here's all the money. Yeah. No, it's like there's a whole order to it. And you can actually create really financially responsible kids and grandkids and generations to come with a properly structured estate plan. And, the big thing is too, that God is not just a God of blessing, but he's also one of order. Again, going back and reading the Old Testament, reading about Jacob, and how even just, hey, I want to go back and be buried in my native land. Like, don't bury me in Egypt. Right. And they had such deep culture and deep roots in family. And I love the idea of a trust and building wealth for those multiple generations, because I feel like that's where we started and we got away from somewhere along the line. But in estate planning, you get to build it in faith, right? Like, allow the wisdom of the word to help guide you in that. And it's not just about getting wealthy, right? It's about being prepared to keep that wealth to last, to be a blessing to future generations, so that I keep going back to this, but so Christians can be radically generous, right? Because so many our kids, which we could do a whole other episode on this, but our kids are going out of high school into college, into, they're starting their lives in debt. And when you have a properly structured trust, you could help future generations start very differently. And that's what is passionate for me about it.
Yeah. Don't curse your children to go through the financial hell you did coming up. Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying give them a stack of cash. Right. But I am saying, give them an opportunity, give your future generations an opportunity to build off the legacy that you created, right? Not start from ground zero, but to build off of that. And it doesn't have to be, like I said, and like you just said, a lump of cash, but a game plan, a strategy, right? Yep. So good stuff. All right, close us out.
I mean, that's really it. We got to have that power of attorney, the living will, last will and testament. Look at, if you have multiple assets, even if you don't, it's just, you have really good life insurance policies, have a trust, a family trust, make the trust the beneficiary. And, go to prosperinthekingdom.com, go visit our website. If you want help with all of this, you can go to our website, click the little button up in the corner. And one of the options is, hey, I want help with legacy planning. And we're happy to help you. This is, what our business is all about and doing every day, helping clients with this. And so be sure to share this episode with a friend. If you're on, go subscribe to the podcast on Apple, on Spotify, wherever you listen, subscribe on YouTube, share on Facebook, and let's, help get the word out on how Christians can be great financial stewards for the kingdom.
There you go. All right, everybody, you heard the marching orders. Let's do it. Show some love. Click that subscribe button. Click that little thumbs up or heart. Give us a 5-star review if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple or one of the other formats. And we will see you next week on another Prosper in the Kingdom. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Prosper in the Kingdom. If this episode added value to your day, be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with someone who could use the encouragement. For more resources, head to prosperinthekingdom.com. Let's continue building lives of purpose and abundance, one step at a time.